And so we're very lucky to have Amir, who is, nice to meet you.
Pleasure, thank you.
Who is the, the chairman of the Global Partnerships Forum, and he's going to lead this dialogue with several wonderful people that we've seen many a times already. And thank you very much for the introduction earlier about this morning.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to you all. First of all, thank you for the kind introduction. As you heard from the Secretary General this morning, the UN, please come to you. The UN is still, if you like, struggling with its technology needs and so on. The premises you are now currently in is temporary, and you see some of the technology which we are using. But the UN needs to be a lot more responsive and agile in terms of how it addresses some of the technology challenges around the world, how it addresses humanitarian issues, health, environment, water, sanitation, etc. So before we go into further discussion, I want to show you a little video which will summarize in terms of what we're dealing with. It's coming. Frank, we need the video.
When disaster strikes, the lives of millions of people can change in a heartbeat. In our globalized world, every day we see images of earthquakes and floods, of war and destruction, of millions of people who desperately need our help.
I stood in the hospital next to women who'd been raped and set on fire 2 days earlier. They looked up to me and said, "Please send the UN. You're their only hope."
The United Nations sends humanitarian workers and emergency supplies to disaster areas around the world. It is the world's only truly global organization, with 192 member states. They meet in the General Assembly in New York, where every nation gets a vote. 15 of the member states form the Security Council, which focuses on peace and security, takes action to avert war and resolve conflicts, and tries to achieve a safer world, free of nuclear and other weapons.
Peace is precious. It must be nurtured, maintained, and defended. This is a job for all of us.
Since 1945, the UN has brokered countless peace settlements, and it now has more than 100,000 peacekeepers around the world. From Haiti to Lebanon, from Timor-Leste to Liberia, from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Sudan, and in more than a dozen other missions around the world, places where others cannot or will not go. And the UN takes care of people in crisis. 43 million people have lost their homes and need protection and a new beginning.
Please help stop the war for the sake of the children.
In many countries, the UN fights to free child soldiers and helps them to become children again. When conflicts are over, the UN helps to train the police and build the justice system. It supports democratic elections. But peace alone means little if people are still hungry. 1 out of 6 people on Earth lives on less than $1 a day. That's why 10 years ago, world leaders formed a global partnership that set 8 goals to reduce poverty. They're called the Millennium Development Goals, or MDGs. They call on the international community to end extreme poverty, combat disease and hunger, and make the planet greener and more sustainable for us all. It may not all happen by the target year 2015, but there has been progress. Already 3 million more children survive past the age of 5 every year. More than 5 million people in developing countries have access to affordable drugs for HIV/AIDS. and millions more boys and girls are going to school. But more needs to be done.
1.1 billion people don't have access to clean water. 2.6 billion people don't have access to clean sanitation. Every 15 seconds, a child dies from not having clean drinking water. That's just staggering numbers.
The UN and its agencies also raise awareness of climate change, set global standards for medicines and vaccinations to prevent pandemics, teach small farmers better techniques to improve their harvests. They give women loans and training to start a business, and so much more. We even have an office that deals with outer space. They make sure that everyone can benefit from the satellite technology that lets us all use cell phones, GPS, and space imagery. These communication tools are critical during emergencies and natural disasters. The UN touches everybody's life. The UN is for you.
Thank you. So, thank you. So you can see that the challenges are enormous, and we really need to move away from the traditional delivery mechanisms. We really need to use technology creatively. And today, our aim is to help the UN deliver that more efficiently and effectively. And before I start, I will be introducing the Chief Information Technology Officer of the United Nations. And before I do that, I think you'll all agree that the reason why we are here today is because of this gentleman, Zeev Klein. And we owe him a big round of applause. Thank you, Zeev. Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to invite Dr. Sunhung Choi, who is the Assistant Secretary General and Chief Information Technology Officer, right hand to the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And it is the Secretary General's idea and Dr. Choi's idea that can we develop new types of partnerships to address these goals? Dr. Choi.
Thank you very much. I need to see Secretary General again, how many right hands he has. Probably a lot. Thank you very much again. I can see that nobody is leaving. That means passion is continue to be sustained. And I think you are doing a great work for the world. Bring technology, method, and your passion, business, all together. But what I think is there are one more dimension, looking at the issue a little bit more broadly, and that's where UN can come in, because we are operating in all over the world to solve the global problem, sometimes small, sometimes large. I know that you'll be doing a good job, and you may ask why UN is trying to kind of intervene. And what I believe is that UN can really help you to do the work you're already doing. For example, we can provide to you list of acute problems we are seeing and coming from our UN personnel all over the world. And then we can present it to you. Some effort you can do it on your own, of course. Some effort we can work together. Some cases that we can be helpful to make sure that whatever you're operating, the government is helpful to get it going, because we have a global legitimacy of governments that we try to create peace and security, social and economic development, good humanitarian assistance, make sure that human rights are being preserved, and lastly, every nation's working together without war, try to stay with the international norms and standards. And these are the kind of things we are working on. So I think UN is trying to create international public goods. And I think what we can do is taking your input and help you, and actually we can do our job better. So it would be my just brief introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. So you heard not only the problems, but also the opportunities which are out there. And the UN cannot do it alone. The Charter of the United Nations says, we the peoples of the United Nations. And that means all of us here who can participate and contribute. And I want to start show you some of the examples of what Dr. Choi said in his presentation, in terms of what the foundation will be about. So, and we'll just run that through quickly. It's really, as I mentioned, it's a public-private partnership, engaging private sector, civil society, academia, think tanks, but more importantly, social entrepreneurs, people like yourselves, who can help find these solutions, using the power of technology. And the Secretary General, you heard this morning, is excited about it, and he wants you to be engaged. And he even said, I'm going to follow the outcomes. So at the end of the program, I'll give you his email address so you can write to him. So, and let me tell you what the creativity of this issue is. It's really about applying technology for humanitarian causes, social issues. How do we get water? You saw people carrying water on their heads. Why can't we use new technology to deliver water, safe drinking water, when 2 billion people are struggling out there? Why don't we address the emergency issues, humanitarian issues, creatively? So, and there are several issues. And by the way, this slide is on the website, which I would invite you to visit. If we go to the next one, I just want to very quickly go through that, why we want to do this. Because the UN, dare I say, and I'm also part of the UN, I have blue blood in me, UN blood, that UN doesn't have the capacity to do it. UN is the moral authority, but when it comes to delivery, it's really private sector, civil society can deliver. And on that note, I want to invite our private sector partners who have been part of this process. We started this about 18 months ago at the request of the Secretary General, and I'm so pleased that a number of people have come together to advise the United Nations on how to do their work better. And I'm going to start with my colleague, Director of International Relations from Intel, Richard Hall, who will share his thoughts.
Thank you, Amir. I appreciate it. I am here for Intel to support this effort because Intel's global mission is to create and extend computing technology to connect and enrich the lives of every person on Earth, all 7 billion, by the year 2020. Parts of this theme have run through this conference today. If you were here earlier and heard the leader and hero, Stephen Gleason, really the tagline for his current work is, until a cure is found, technology is that cure. Technology empowers. Dr. Craig Venter talked about how 10 or 12 years ago, the computing equipment necessary for sequencing the human genome filled a good-sized room and cost millions. Now it sits on a desktop and costs $1,000. And then you heard an entertaining example from Dr. Nicholas Negroponte about leaving a box full of tablet computers outside the perimeter of a village in Ethiopia, and how the children picked them up, and within a few days they were racing to learn an alphabet more quickly than the other child. So the message tied to we believe, our global mission is that technology empowers. So if you think about 3 elements combining together, first, the empowerment of technology. Second, the global reach and prestige and authority of the United Nations. And third, the power of partnership. If you take those 3 elements together, combine them, support an effort like this, there's no limit to what we could accomplish. Thank you.
Richard, thank you. I think I ought to know your speechwriter, because that's what we need to say, actually. That's
you're looking at him.
I'm going to come back to some of these initiatives in just a moment, but I want to invite Akhtar Badshah, who is the Senior Director for Community Affairs Worldwide. Like Intel, a long-standing partner of the United Nations. Welcome, Akhtar, and thank you again.
Thank you very much. This is a much-needed, exciting, and important initiative. During the Kosovo crisis, our friends at UNHCR worked with us and our employees to develop an online registration system so refugees that were streaming in could be effectively identified, but more importantly, families that were getting displaced could be reunited. It's the power of technology. We work with UNOCHA that helps during a tsunami, a flood, an earthquake. With technology becomes critical as a lifesaver. So if we don't participate with the UN through the use of technology, we are simply just sentencing a lot of people to early death. So it is really upon us, and that is why Microsoft as a company believes in this mission, the effective use of technology to bring about humanitarian change, and we are proud and thrilled to be part of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Akhtar. I know time is short, and I know many of you would like to ask questions, so we'll have a way to address that. I started that conversation earlier, why we're here. Zeev has been part of this effort for us, and I'm really grateful for Zeev to be in this process. Zeev, welcome, and thank you again.
Hi. Thank you. So I kind of chose this moment to kind of share one very quick remark. I'll be sub 40 seconds. It's an honor to sit here at this table with the prior speakers and the future speakers to come. It's an honor to sit here in front of such an esteemed group. My brand is the smallest at this table, possibly one of the smallest in this room, and I think that when you think of social transformation, it doesn't have to be big companies, it can be small companies, it can be medium companies. I don't care what you do, but do something. And so that's the one message that I wanted to communicate today. I think we've created an array of opportunities. We've got an ecosystem of partnerships represented. Choose one of them and take an action. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeev. And Zeev follows that principle of less is more. So thank you. You see on the chart what we are looking. We're just in the early stages of setting this initiative up. And I'm pleased to see we have some great technology leaders in the room, like Salesforce, VMware, Nokia, Ericsson, and many others. Actually, I would invite you to figure out ways, as Zeev said, do something. And there are many people who can contribute to this process, and you don't have to be large. The creativity is what we're looking for. And I just want to say, in closing, I want to thank many, many people who've been involved in this effort for us. We have S&R Denton, who has helped us from a legal perspective, but within the UN family, who not only from Dr. Choi's team, but also the Office of Legal Affairs. Jay Posnell, our internal lawyer, is present. You notice the way I said our internal lawyer. He will actually put a demarcation line. UN's internal lawyer, and so on, and Cisco. Carlos Domingos was hoping to be with us. Unfortunately, he's not able to join us because of logistics, but they've been also part of this process. And I invite you, and I will skip to the next one. You don't want to see the Global Partnerships Forum. What you want to see is that there are opportunities out there for you to get engaged, and you have contact details of how you might approach us. And you'll see at the end a list of people who really want to thank for their efforts. And on that note, I want to say thank you so much for your patience. I know Zeev would be very keen that we entertain questions, but I want to move to the next item. And in so doing, I want to thank Shannon for her hospitality. Shannon, you've been wonderful and fantastic. You need to be in the UN. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.